here with week 3 of the Seek, Gather, Create challenge. I'm going to go ahead and tell you again about Seek, Gather, Create. I have 2 other videos for week 1 and week 2, but this is a mixed media scavenger hunt that takes place on Instagram. It's hosted by 3 artists, Lisa Goddard, Tina Hoyce, and Laura D. Dennison. And then each week there's also a guest artist. This week it's Mary Beth Shaw. So, like I said, this is a challenge, takes place on Instagram. It happens twice a year, each season of it. There are 4 weeks and each week has 4 prompts, and then you just seek and gather whatever you're inspired by in those prompts and create something. Seek, gather, create. The hashtag, if you're going to play along, is Seek, Gather, Create AUG 2025, so August 2025. This week I am a little flabbergasted. So some of these are easy enough. So the prompts are circles, an old map, still, and mosaic. Circles, I'm going to create circles in some way. So I've got this, it's an old glue stick, it's fairly large, and I like to make circles with it. I can use other caps or things as well. I also really enjoy drawing like sketchy circles. So I've got my favorite R2 pen from the Dollar Tree. An old map, that's easy enough. I've got tons of them. These are, let's see, 2 of these are old National Geographic old maps. This one and this one. And then I've got, this is a St. Croix one. And it's, you know, like a tourist map type thing. It's kind of shiny, so I'll probably end up going with one of those. Okay, so still. Okay, let's talk about Mosaic. Mosaic, the only thing I could come up with is I have this Tim Holtz stencil from Stampers Anonymous, and the name of this stencil is Mosaic. Can you see it? There. So it is, and it also has like these circles, so it could also go well for circles. So still is such a, I don't know, all-encompassing word. It can mean so many things. It can mean like lack of motion, or still life painting, or like a distillery, like, you know, where you make whiskey. It can be what else did I always say? Like, there are quotes that or songs with the word still in the title, like You're Still the One, or yeah, things like that. So what I ended up finally deciding on was still photography, or stills from photography. So these are slides, of course, which are, and I've looked it up, they are indeed yeah, it is considered a still. I'm trying to figure out which one it was. This one that was in my, was in my Focals box, and it was something actually Lisa Goddard, one of the hostesses, sent me. We did an exchange years and years ago, and I believe she sent me this one. And it fell kind of weird in my box a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to play with that idea, and I don't have any way to show it to you. But basically, let me see, can I show it to you? When you put it on here, you see there's that opening in the sky, and it fell across some eyes in a picture, and I can't find anything right here to show you, and I kind of want to maybe play with that. So I went through my stash of other slides to look for other ones that also have like a big open sky area. I really like this one that has these palm trees that are really obvious. And then I found these 2 that, like, I guess the images didn't come out really well, and they are almost completely like white. So I may not use the word still specifically, but the word still inspired me to go get these slides. So I think that's how we're gonna play this round of Seek, Gather, Create. So I'm gonna think on it for just a little bit to try to figure out what it is I want to do with these things, and we'll get started. For you, it'll be just a second. For me, it's gonna be a little bit of thinking. As you can see, my desk has changed. I have been fiddling around with these slides for a while, trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. This one bothers me a little because it's upside down from like what the image is, but I think that means I want to make it central. So I'm going to use yearbook photos and kind of highlight the eyes of people in that skyline, that open space. I'm sorry if you can hear the cat. She wants her wet cat food, and yeah, it's not time. So I have this little hangy thing from Dollar Tree. I'm gonna see if I can get this. Oh, well, I'm gonna get this off and use this inside. So I also want to maybe take this hanger out and move it to the back, which again is going to leave me with holes. So I've got to figure that out, guys. But I have all of these things, and I think I'm just going to alter a background and then do 3 of these kind of in the front. Maybe I'll cover that with some kind of sentiment or tag or something. We'll see what I've got. Yeah, I might put some numbers, or I don't know. I'll figure it out, but let's do it, because I'm agonizing over this. You have no idea how many yearbooks I went through just to find the 3 that I like. So I'm gonna probably start by cutting those out and clipping them together, so I don't lose the ones that I want to use. Oh, also, I pulled out this container. It is like the center of things, and the little negative pieces from when I laser cut things. We call them greeblies. I believe that's I've mentioned this before. It's a term we've heard Adam Savage use, that they used at Industrial Light and Magic. And so that's, yeah, it's what we call these little odds and end pieces from the laser cutter. All right. I'm putting it off. Let me get to making. Let's get crafty. I am going to go ahead and say that for the length of this video, you would think this project was way more complex than it is. So I'm probably sharing more with you than you ever need to see in this project. But I want you to see kind of like how it came together. Some of my thought process. We'll see what I end up telling you. So as you can see, I am doing just a basic cutout of the yearbook photos that went with the 3 slides that I picked out. I kind of went with the ones where you could see the eyes without being obscured, but there was still like a landscape or a building or something in it. So I turned to the, and I don't think I mentioned, I'm using the inside. I really enjoy creating like shadow boxes. And when I bought this is exactly why I bought it, is because this shape was neat for a shadow box. So I took off the hangy parts, scraped off that metal piece, and then sanded it down before going in real quick. And yeah, I'm sanding as much as I can off, but I'm going to end up painting the whole back of this with some white gesso, just so that it just feels a little more whatever. And that way some of whatever the stain is when it is hung won't scrape on anybody's wall. So it's white, but it's really just the back of it. The rest of it, I kept the color that it is. So I let that dry, and then it hit me that to cover those holes, I could use one of these Tim Holtz, I don't know what they're called, like tags or sentiments or words or something. I often use them as bracelets. I curve them and turn them into bracelets, but that's really not what they're intended for. So I picked out one that says "Full of Wonder," which I really thought went really well with like the whole idea of the map and using the landscapes and the things that people had seen around the world. And then the fact that I'm using yearbook photos that are, people that are still full of wonder for the world. So I grabbed my map. This is one. It's some part of Africa, I believe, and spritzed it with a little bit of walnut. Oh gosh, it was a PaperArtsy Infusions, I believe, in just walnut, and then some vintage photo distress oxide. And I dried that. So I just wanted to not have the map itself so obvious. I wanted it to feel kind of like a treasure map and aged. I even considered pulling out my incense and putting some like holes or charring the edges or something like that, but I felt like that might be overkill. So from there, let's bring in circles. And as I mentioned, I've got these caps of things that I'm using just really basic black craft paint. And you can see I got it all over me, y'all. But these are several different sizes. I will bring in that Oohoo one as well, just to make circles in the background. I think it also helped me obscure the mappiness of the map. But it added some texture that I felt like I needed once I had sprayed those sprays on top of it, because that Distress Oxide especially got real dark. And granted, I'm using black, but yeah. So that is all stamped and good to go. And I think I'm going to try this again. Yup. And then come in with that Mosaic stencil. Because I did use the Distress Oxide spray, I know that it is water reactive. So I'm putting my stencil down and using a baby wipe to pick up some of that Distress Oxide. Now, it won't pick up the PaperArtsy Infusions much, nor will it pick up the acrylic paint. So really, it's just adding texture. Can you see that neat bit of texture it added? Yeah, I really loved that. I'm going to use the stencil again down the line to kind of bring it back in, because I felt like it's going to be very subtle. This stencil is very, very subtle, but it is how I'm using Mosaic here. But I kind of, as I thought about it, once I put my slides down, because they're kind of like tiles in themselves, what I'm creating is almost a mosaic too. So I think that's kind of fun. So I did try that, and I'm playing around with the slides and the backers and taking a look at them, and you can see the faces and all through the slides, or the eyeballs, and I'm looking at the placement, but I knew I wanted to add a little bit of height to these, because it's a whole lot easier to see the images when you get a little bit of light between. So yeah, so I'm painting the back of these slides white to have that reflective bit of white once I add the height to between the slide and the yearbook photos. Does that make sense? You're going to see me do it here in a minute. But I wanted some, white is just, I don't know. And it's not a huge deal, but I did that to all three of them, painted the back of them white a little bit, and then grabbed my greeblies. Now, I started by pulling out a bunch of circles, thinking, okay, here's another way I can add circles into this, but I'm not going to end up using the circles. I've got other little rectangular bits that end up working a whole lot better here. So I am using them to add the height that I want on the back of these slides. So I'll use, since these little wood pieces are, since these little laser cut pieces are wood, I'm going to use wood glue. And I'm doing that by putting a little bit of the wood glue on one of the pieces and rubbing, you can see, rubbing two of them together and then placing it down, so I don't have to get super fancy with trying to spread it out some other way. And you can see I'm putting these just above the pictures, kind of in toward the actual slide photo, the still. Just so that they're a little bit harder to see, these little wood pieces. And then kind of making sure that it has the right height, looking at it there. And I'm going to do that to all three of these slides. Yeah. So I have cut some of this out. Like I said, this is a super repetitive process. Now, from there, I decided I wanted to bulk up the back of these yearbook photos a little, so I took some white cardstock and painted it gold. But y'all, this cardstock was a little floppier than I really wanted it to be. I thought even by painting it, it would sturdy it up. But I'm going to end up using something else. But I wanted you to see some of this decision-making process. So I cut these down to the size of a slide. I used a slide to trace it. And as I started moving these around, I realized that, what did I realize? There was something in here that I was like, oh, well, if these are the exact, I'm gonna have to be really precise about how I glue down these yearbook photos, because, because it's gonna be, yeah, if I don't place them in the right place, then I won't see their eyes through it in the right place. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so persnickety. And then I was like, but I painted this gold, and gold would give even more light to come through, but the gold's not there and the backgrounds are all different. So I was like, oh, what if I fussy cut these so some of that gold kind of comes through and adds to having the reflecting of the light. So, yeah, you can see I'm getting real fiddly with this. So I end up fussy cutting all three of these yearbook photos out, which helped a little bit with making them feel a little more, I don't know, more like they were out of the same yearbook. Because I think all three of these folks were out of different years. Like the girl on the left is from the 70s, the girl in the middle is from the 40s, and the guy on the right is from the 50s, I think. So yeah. But again, it kind of helps enhance that bit of like traveling the world and having wonder for everything, because it's kind of timeless and ageless. And yeah, I don't know, it all felt very like everything kind of just fell into place and works. And in fact, I was cracking up because we've got circles and a map there, and I was like, y'all, I could have used a globe is a circle. So I was like, no, I can't even figure out how to work in that right now. So I went ahead and cut this other one and looked at it. And this is when I start realizing that I'd have to be really precise about where I glued these guys down. And I wasn't really happy with that white cardstock. So I'm going to end up bringing in some cereal box. So I cut one piece down to size that would fit in the back of my little frame Shadowbox there. So I'm going to glue it using some golden regular gel medium. It's a gloss one, and I tend to use it anytime I'm not gonna be seeing it, because I'm not big on gloss things. So I'm gonna put that here on my cardboard, and for this one, I made sure I'm gluing my map to the like craft cardstock side of the cereal box, because I didn't want any of that cereal imagery to come through the map, just in case. So and I'm gonna stick that down and then start cutting. Yeah, and you see I kind of glued it cattywampus. I'm re-gluing things. I'm gonna cut it down and then come back in and add a bit more of the gloss gel medium to the areas that aren't stuck down, because I want to make sure all of that is done before I put it in my little shadow box, because it's gonna be a whole lot harder to do once it's glued in. So this is what I always do when I do these little shadow boxes. I try to do as much outside of the box as I can, because once you put the things in the shadow box, it's way harder to do it, without messing something up. I did ink the edges of it with some Walnut Stain Distress ink, and this is when I start realizing, oh, not all of this. As usual, all the edges seem to have not stuck really well. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time sticking that down, and I'm going to bring in that it's a hotel room key, or you can use a gift card or whatever to help glue some of these things down, because I am horrible about getting messy fingers, like getting paint or ink or whatever on my fingers, and then using my fingers to kind of scrape something down and then getting that all over the place. So that's why a lot of times I'll use that to scrape that down. And I'm just kind of looking at its position for this box, and I'm going to relay my guys out. And I knew at this point that I wasn't going to use those little pieces of gold. And I don't know what I'm looking at here, y'all, honestly. yeah, so I'm going to put all that aside and then turn to this other piece of cereal box. And I'm going to paint the whole thing with some black gesso just to give myself a good base for the gold so that it's not, I don't know, so the gold doesn't just soak straight into the cereal box when I add the gold paint. So this is some of the heavy gesso from Prima. And I've got this tube of it that I'm just trying to use up. I have other black gessos, but I'm trying to use this one up because I've had it for a while. I did put like one other little bit of coat of the black on there just because it was still on my brush. But then I came in with, this is some of the Modern Masters acrylic paint in Olympic Gold. And I'm going to put that all over my card. I want to say it's cardstock, all over my cereal box. And then I'll dry it. Yeah, well, you'll see. I mean, I don't know why I included so much of this. This is why this video is too long. It's because I could have just sped this up. And I was trying to, I don't know, try to make my brush marks kind of all go in the same direction. So it felt finished. So I'm going to dry this because I knew I was going to come back in with something else. Once I get it dry, I decided to go ahead and grab my little Tim Holtz plaque thing and go ahead and paint it gold because I felt like that would bring some of that gold elsewhere on there, on this assemblage, besides just the, just kind of tucked in behind the yearbook photos. So, and I spent a bit of time kind of going over this, trying to make sure I don't have paint like clogged up in between the letters and those kind of things. So this is going to seem like a bit of overkill, but I'm basically trying to wipe away all of the excess paint that's like clumped up inside that little plaque. So then I'm going to dry. No, then I'm going to take, I've got some Liquitex acrylic paint. It's a fluid acrylic paint in gold, and I'm going to put that also on my cereal box. I don't know why I can't remember that. And then dry both of those things, the cereal box and my little plaque. So, and this helps fill in some of the gaps. And again, this is nothing special. This is just going to be a backer to help sturdy up those yearbook photos and give it a little bit of a reflective quality. So once that's dry, I'm gonna just use my Oohoo glue stick. Yeah, see, I'm double checking things. I'm gonna use my Oohoo glue stick to glue down these yearbook photos. First, I'm going to ink up the edges of them since they are cut images. I always feel like inking the edges gives them, I don't know, makes them feel a little more finished than just gluing them down with the white edges from the cut paper. So it's one of those little finishing touches. And there's that room key that's going down. So I'm going to do that on all 3 of my yearbook photos. And I think you can see I'm trying to keep them in what I thought was going to be the order I was going to glue them down. Because I don't know, I had decided, which slide went with which photo and all of that. And I was just trying to keep them in an order so I didn't get them mixed up and have to like go, oh no, what did I do? But the order of these is actually going to change in the box. I tried to find photos in which they were looking in different directions. So like the girl that I've got there on the left is looking to the right, and the girl, she's actually, yeah. And the girl in the middle is kind of looking forward, and the guy on the right is looking, anyway. I wanted them all looking in different directions, and it was really hard to find anybody looking off to the right. I will say that almost everybody is either looking dead at you in the old yearbooks or looking to the left. It's so weird. It's like nobody's looking to the right. Once I got them glued down, because that was a glue stick and didn't really need any time to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and use that wood glue again on my little greebly razors to glue these down. So I'm doing them one at a time to make sure that, yeah, I get them centered, and I'm also weighing them down with whatever I have on my desk that has some weight to it. So I'm trying to be, so you may get to see the top of my head a couple times as I'm trying to get in there and make sure that the placement is right for these. Yeah. So this was, I don't know, I was so excited about this because, like I said, this all came about because I had that slide from Lisa that was in my little focal box, and it fell over either a yearbook photo. I think that's what it was. It could have been a Tim Holtz like photo booth, but it fell over some eyes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so fun. So once I decided that I was going to use these slides, I was like, oh, I can do that thing I've been wanting to do, and see, put eyes in behind slides. So it all really kind of worked out. So once those were dry, I gave them, you know, a little bit of time to make sure. But that wood glue dries super quick. I mean, like quicker than you think it would. I am cutting these down, and I'm just using the edge of my scissors to kind of determine where the edge, like, because the slides are pretty thick and hefty, I'm using my scissors to just kind of butt up against the slide and help me determine the edge to cut the cereal box. So once those are all cut, I'm going to come back, and I think I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, I'm still deciding. And I think at this point I had decided that I was going to turn it and have my little plaque at the bottom. So I made sure that where the holes for that hanger had been is at the bottom. So I'm going to ink the edges of all of these and kind of make sure some of the ink not only gets on the edges, but gets on the front of these slides, just to give them, I don't know, a little bit more age and a vignette, if you will, so that they have, I don't know, they feel a little more framed up. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, and I've sped this up a little bit because it's the same process. Go around them, ink them up, make sure they've got that little bit of something. And once that's done, maybe I hadn't decided where it was going to go. See, I'm still moving it around. And yep, here's where I finally am like, okay, this is going to be my orientation. So I pull everything out, and it's time to start gluing. Can you believe that? I'm so much let's audition everything before we make it final kind of girl. Oh, and I had decided that this is where I brought back that Mosaic stencil again to add more gold again, because I'd put the gold behind the photos, and then also on that little plaque I said let's go ahead and put some in the background, and that also helps like block out I don't know, pushes the circles back a little bit, pushes some of the words. There were a couple of words in there that I wasn't super keen on, and this very opaque gold paint, or very not, yeah, I guess opaque, kind of helped push some of that back. And I didn't want to cover the whole thing, and this is not because the colors that I had put on this map are very similar to this gold. The gold is very much just a kind of like a touch of a thing to add more texture, and add just a bit of the reflective quality, so it's not a huge deal. I did use some, I think the color is Ebony Rub and Buff, that I'm going to put just a little bit on my desk and put it on my finger and lightly go over the edges or the raised portions of this plaque, so that the words and the edges all get accented so you can read it a little bit easier. So, and I knew, yeah, as soon as I painted that gold, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make these pop somehow, either by sanding back stuff or adding to it. And then because the slides have that bit of white to them, I just felt like I needed some white in the background as well. So I'm using, this is some Waverly chalk paint in white. I put a little on my desk with a bunch of water, and I'm going to splatter And that, again, more texture, more, I don't know, just brightens things up a little bit in the background. And I love it. I love a touch of splatter for, I mean, it also feels a bit like age, like the foxing you would find in an old book or an old page, or, yeah. It wouldn't be bright white though, of course. So, I tried that, and then my cereal box, because I've added so much to it, is curling a bit. So I tried to straighten that out. I'm going to ink the edges one more time, just in case some of that splatter got up against those edges. And yeah, and you can see I'm kind of delaying. I'm like, anytime I start inking and over inking things, I'm kind of delaying the inevitable. I'm delaying putting those last steps, the permanent pieces down. So, because now it's time to start gluing things in. And so I'm going to audition everything one more time. And there, I switched. Nope, see, I'm switching things up. I'm like, oh wait, what if I put the guy on the left and I have him looking out? So he's looking out at the world. And so the girl on the right is looking out. And it just, instead of looking in toward the box. So that was my idea. And then I'm going to use the wood glue to stick this down, because it is a fairly sturdy glue. It's got like a silicone bristle, but it's a glue spreader that, I think my husband got it at the hardware store for me. And I'm going to use that to spread my glue out before I stick in that cereal box background. I loved my upcycling, y'all. Cereal box is one of my favorite things to work with. I've cut it on the laser cutter. I use it as book, when I make a journal for journal covers. It's just something I always have in the house because my husband eats a lot of cereal. It's a staple here. So I am pushing down, making sure those edges don't curl up on me. And I'm going to look at it one more time, and I'm decide that I want to raise the back of these just a little bit also to give everything a little bit more depth. But I'm just using, these are some little squares. I think these actually came from the inside when I laser cut film strips for last season. See Gather Create, one of the prompts was film strip, and I laser cut some film strips, and I think these are the inside pieces. So this is only I think the pieces I put between the cereal box and the slides, I think that was a 1/4 inch, and then these little squares I'm putting on here, I think they're 1/8 of an inch. So I glued those down, gave them a few minutes to dry, and now it is time to go ahead and finish this up. So I am actually using where I had taken the hardware off from this. I'm using that as my guide for what the center is, and starting in the center, sticking down the girl that goes in the center. And of course she's the centerpiece because that slide is different than the other two. And it just was very important to me that one be in the center, because it's the odd one. I don't know. So, and I'm using, when I put the other two down, I'm lining them up, their top and their bottom, with hers, and kind of just trying to get the spacing similar on either side. So once they're down, I'm going to use E6000 to stick down my metal piece. And I'll tell you, to you, it's going to look like I just stuck it down once. I ended up pulling it off and adding more E6000 because it just wasn't making enough of a connection. So once it is stuck down, that is it for week 3 of Seek, Gather, Create. I can't believe there's only 1 week of it left. I'm looking forward to seeing what the prompts are and how they inspire me. And let me know if you've been playing along and how you've been inspired by these. Thank you so much for coming by and watching. I'm sorry this simple assemblage box was such a time, but I wanted you to kind of see all the steps I took and the decisions I made throughout the process. So I appreciate you spending this time with me, and I will see y'all soon with more crafty stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye.